Well, delivery day today, and just looking at the compost bins, you can see how they've just sunk down, I reckon about 6 to 8 inches since I last filled them, which was 10 days ago. And well, that's pretty good. That means that they're working hard, and temperatures have been reasonably high, which is fantastic. Sitting today at just over 30 degrees centigrade, 83 degrees Fahrenheit, which is fantastic. I'm thinking that I'll top these off today, and I'm thinking I'll probably need to start in here, but I will of course fill these compost bins which I've been putting in place for the excess. That lid seems to want to come through every time. I've now got 2 bricks in there which I need to remember to move, but yeah, that's sunk down a hell of a lot as well, so that's good. Thanks to the cockerel for greeting. And well, I've had so many suggestions on my video before last. Of course, my videos are done in advance, so sometimes when you're making comments about things I might do, I've actually moved on another video, and there were an awful lot of suggestions that said, well, put the bricks at the bottom and not the blocks on these IBC tank supports because they'll be more stable, and I've sort of headed that one off. And a lot of people suggesting rather than raise them high, I could have kept them lower and dug down for a sort of pit for the watering cans. And yeah, I did think of that. There was 2 reasons I didn't do that. One, I know it'll fill with water, especially in the winter, and it'll probably sit there because of the clay pan for a very long time. And 2, when it comes to this edge, that little bit of height is quite useful because we've obviously got a step there. So yeah, I mean, they were choices, but that's where I landed, and it's worked out nicely. I'm going to put this one last filler in here today because this is the only bit with a gap, and then I think I'm going to stress test them, and by that I mean fill them with water and just see how things work out, because if there is a problem, I'd rather know now and then empty them and put it right than get into the season when I'm starting to think about growing much more predominantly. So I'm thinking I might at least fill 1, maybe 2, we'll see how we go, but I do need to get that filler in. The ice is still here from when I emptied those barrels a couple of days ago. It is melting slowly, but yeah, it's a frosty morning. I think it'll warm up fairly quickly today. And the garlic's looking fantastic. Look at that. Every single one of those pots, really, really nice. And these are the elephant garlic, which I have planted too close together by all accounts, but will be interesting nonetheless. The kale is looking fantastic this morning. I can't say the same for my purple sprouting broccoli. The intense cold that we've had has really bashed them. I mean, this one's had it, and these, I think they will come through, but they do look like they've taken a hell of a bashing. And the ones that are over in this bed, which ultimately I will be giving up, are looking just as forlorn. Yeah, do you know what, I'm pretty sure that that's dead, all that flower in there. This one's been decimated, as has that one. Same here. These, ironically, this one that fell down is looking a bit healthier, and this one that's a bit sort of later coming through is okay, but there really isn't going to be a lot of purple sprouting broccoli on the basis of what I can see, unless there's a tremendous fight back from those plants and we get some good growth. So I don't know, we'll have to see. But yeah, shame, these things happen. Okay, well, I think what I'm going to do is get the hose out and run it from my neighbour, who kindly allows me to use her outside tap, and see if I can start to fill up those tanks after I've found a bit of a shim for that corner. And then while that's filling, I'll get on with today's delivery. Right, well, this is going to fit reasonably well, I think. Look at that. Perfect. Solid. Right, I think it's hose time, and then get on with my filling in with the bins. But I am still moving stuff out the shed, and this has become my new storage location. Probably need a brick on that, but I'll get to that later. Right. With the garlic around the front, this is a bit more of an onerous task than it normally is. And I'm hoping, although this will be stiff because it's cold, I'm hoping that it won't be frozen. Right, I don't know whether I'm going to chuck the whole lot over the top, because I'm not going to be taking it round the back this time. Yeah, that seems to work. Right. That worked. Funny old time of year to be bringing water over to the plot, but needs must. Right, that can trickle along while I get on with the manure. I'm not going to film loading all this up, but I thought I'd just plunge the thermometer into the centre. And do you know what? Unbelievable. It's about 92 degrees Fahrenheit, about, what is that, 35 degrees centigrade in the middle. And this is quite a long temperature gauge, so that's right down in the middle. Fantastic. Right, let's get on. A little bit of rain coming in now. I'm about halfway through the trailer. You can see I'm mounding it up now. Actually gone over the top of the divider in the bays, but that's fine. And just starting on this last one. But I was anxious just to review the water tanks, and what I'm going to do now is move the water into the left-hand tank, because I don't want the pressure in one applied in a way that's going to tilt them in any way. So I'm going to try and fill them up reasonably evenly. We had a bit of a battery out then. It's surprisingly cold. The sun's coming up now, which is warming it up a little bit, but the batteries don't do well in this weather. Right, so this one's beginning to fill now. I thought there might have been a bit of a slant on it, but nothing to worry about. So we'll get that one up to there. In fact, we'll top this one right up and then fill that one back up to the top. And then, wow, by all accounts, they're good and sturdy. There she blows. Okay, so that's the bins topped up, and over here I managed to get 3 full, and still got 2 that I've just got a little bit in the bottom. So it's amazing how much manure these composters take, which is a good thing. And I still haven't had to fill the compost bay on the end, which has been my own compost, yet. So that's good news too. And well, we'll see. It's amazing how it just keeps on taking more and more compost. Shows how it decomposes over time. Right, and the tanks. Well, the interesting thing is the holes in the back of this tank overflow first, i.e. before this one in the front, because there's obviously a bit of a tilt onto the back. So that's good. It means I can run any overflow that I want into the barrels out the back, which is nice rather than having it flapping around the front, and I don't need to plug that hole. And then this one's full to there now, and it too is looking like it's got a little bit of a backward lean, but that's fine. They are going to take more water than they've ever taken before because they're more level than they've ever been before. Got a bit of algae on here, but it does come off, so at some point I think I'll put algon on that and see if I can just clear it off. Well, that just leaves me to start working on this area, but I don't think I'm going to be doing it this morning. There's quite a lot of ice still to melt there, and I've been thinking I'll just take a bit of level off of that top area and drag it down to here because this is a little bit lower and there's a step. Ooh, the sun is definitely coming out now, and I'll have to move the remaining bricks for now, just get that area a bit tidy, but that'll be for another day. And well, got a lot done the last time I was on the plot, and I'm going to carry on with a few things today. Quick look at my tanks after they've been, well, settling full of water for a few days. There's no real issues at all as far as I can see. I don't appear to have any leaks. The water levels have stayed consistent, and I don't seem to have any movement in position at all, which is great. So I think they're pretty well set. What I have sort of thought about over the last few days is that the spaces under these now could be quite useful for putting a couple of crates of pots that won't come a cropper in the cold weather, but acts as a bit of storage, so that'll be ideal. So with that in mind, I think I'm going to move a couple of bits out of the polytunnel today, because what is on my list is algae removal from the plastic. And as you know, I've previously used algon and I'll continue to use it. We'll talk about that a bit in a minute, but just to take a look, you can see the sort of waves of algae on there and the build up on the left hand side. And when you look in this light at the side of it, you can see how much there is. Certainly down the bottom it's really quite bad, and of course that restricts the light. And I was trying to think whether it was inside or out last night, and I think it's mainly inside. Let's go in and have a look at that area and just see what we think. Yeah, it's definitely on the inside, but I will do the outside. And I've got the remainder of this soil to push around. I think I might have a few odd potatoes in there because that's what the soil was used for. So I'm going to just spread that and get it nice and level. And then a lot of people have been asking me with the algon what I do about plants, and well, it's quite interesting what it says on the can, and I'll tell you what I do as well. So just for the record, as I say on YouTube channels, I'm not sponsored by algon. I bought this with my own money. They don't know that I'm doing any sort of review or comments on it. This isn't a review. I have covered algon before, but it's an organic path, patio and deck cleaner. And the main thing is it says it's non-toxic, safe for pets and safe around fish and fish ponds. I'll put my glasses on and I'll tell you a few of the things it says on the back, because this is quite important. The worry that people have is that it might get on the soil or on their plants. So this says that it's usable on all sorts of surfaces. There are some exceptions. It says take care near fish ponds. A little overspray or runoff will not harm fish or pond life. So, you know, when you think about your plants, if it's not going to harm fish or pond life in small quantities, then it's very, very unlikely to harm your plants or the soil. Excess wetting or puddling may result in patches of white residue forming. I've seen that before on the polytunnel floor. It's harmless and it will weather away. What else have we got? There's bits about spot testing, and it says always rinse implements after use. Do not throw rinse water on plants or grass. Algae will scorch grass, foliage and flowers where it makes contact. So you do want to cover plants where you're concerned about that scorching. So what I tend to do is to cover my beds with some plastic or ready-made covers just to protect them from that. But I'm not over cautious. I've never ever had an issue in a piece of ground or soil where I've used Algon to generally clean a greenhouse. So my method is, and it does suggest this, don't use this or spray it when you're going to have a lot of rain, because quite simply it takes a while to take effect. And if you look in the forecast and it's going to rain today or tomorrow, then it's probably not a good time to do it, because it'll just wash off and you won't get the effect that you want. So I tend to wait for a nice day like this where I can see in the forecast, at least for a couple of days, it's going to be dry. And the forecast this week is dry all week. So seems like perfect timing for me. And of course, the other balance is, what have I got growing? And I don't really want to start this process when I've got a lot growing in the polytunnel. So now's about the right time before I start sowing too much. And before I get anything really in the ground, then that's the time to have those few days of clear weather for it all to take effect. Right, well, this dilutes very easily. This is 1 part Algon, 3 parts water. So if you've got a pressure bottle a bit like this, it's very easy just to do 1 part Algon and 3 parts of water. So I'm going to set that up and start the job. There we are. Got my very own drawer unit underneath the tanks. That's crates that are just about the right size, and I've got things that will come to no harm underneath there. So that's got a few things out of the polytunnel. They might stay there long term, they might not. I might have to tweak around with crates just to get them ones that look the best and work the best. But that's a good job, and I've pretty much now covered anything that I think is important in the polytunnel. And as I say, I don't think this is essential, especially on the plastic things, but I've got the covers, why not take the time and trouble just to make sure that they're covered up. So the challenge I'll have is spraying in and behind this area, but I'm not too anxious about that because I'll not be growing anything under there. And then on this bed, I've done my best with these old greenhouse sheets just to cover over, and I'm absolutely convinced that nothing will be impacted upon, even if it does seep down the sides. Okay, so next thing is to fill that sprayer up to the appropriate level. 3 parts water, 1 part Algon, and I'm good to go. Right, well, I've got my mix right, and I'm just going to spray these IBC tanks just to get rid of this algae which is on the front, and just tidy them up a bit. Shouldn't take me too long. There we go, that's one surface done. And I just spray this so that, well, the whole side is basically wet. I'll do this one while I'm here. Really is simple stuff this, no rocket science. Just get the pressure up and cover the surface. I will do the roof, but I'll wait to the end so that when it does start to drip on you, you can walk away from it while it's dripping. So there we are. That's one surface done, and it just runs down the polythene and doesn't really waste any. Okay, one done. I'll carry on. That's the whole of the inside done. Didn't take me very long at all. It really is very straightforward. And if you've got one of these sprayers, which you can get from your local hardware store, mine came from Wilkinson's, other hardware stores are available, and just get the pressure up. The rubber O-rings on the seal do go after some time, so you just have to think about that, but I've got some rubber O-rings at home which replace quite nicely. So I'm just going to start on the outside now. This is actually the worst of the area, and also right on the top tends to harbour quite a lot of algae, but shouldn't take me long. Well, that's me done for today. That's a good job. Always like to get that one done. I do it about every 2 years. If you look back on my videos, you'll find about 2 years ago I was doing exactly the same thing, and it tends to last about 2 years. I only ever do one application, if I'm honest. I've got some left, so I will use that up, and probably on this side, so I will do perhaps a second application on that side, but only because I want to use up what's in the pressure sprayer. So yeah, good jobbed, and that sets us up nicely for the growing season. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and if you did, why not like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Diolch yn fawr.